President of the Calgary Leadership Forum.
That's going to take this as an opportunity to ask the question about marriage equality. I can tell you that I believe in same-sex marriage. I can tell you that I believe repealing Bill 44, or Section 11.1 now it's called in the Human Rights Code. Very specific actions. I believe in supporting gay-straight alliances. These are very specific things that I believe in, that the Alberta Party would pursue and talk, and are much better, I think, than a just general discussion of respect and dignity for people. I'd like to hear all candidates' opinions on that particular topic. I think it's something that's important to know and understand in Calgary, although it's certainly consistent with what my personal values are, with the values of the Alberta Party. Thank you.
So why am I running? I'm running because I have a ethos of being an officer and a gentleman, and that was drilled into us in our profession as a military officer. That meant being ethical, being accountable. And when I saw what was happening at the provincial government under the leadership, past leadership, it was time to stand up. I had the opportunity now in my life to do that. It's time to do my civic duty and stand up and make the government accountable. We need honest, ethical people. So everybody who fulfills that requirement should come forward and actually run and replace this government that has had this whole list of scandals. Now I liken the ship of state that we have here in the province. We have a ship that's going forward, but it's taking hits. It's leaking. And right now I'm seeing Mr. Prentice taking the playbook of the wild rose and stuffing the holes in the ship while it's taking on water. The problem is that he's brought on some new executive, but he hasn't changed the crew. He's got a mutinous crew. And so that's not going to change anything. That ship's still going to sail forward and it's going to eventually founder. What we need is a whole new crew and a whole new captain. That's why I'm running. What do I think about the past? Well, I think I've just explained all of that. It's extremely important that we have a powerful, strong MLA who will, this is a by-election, this is not a general election, that we elect someone who will stand up and hold the government accountable for all these tragedies that have happened. Just keep your feet to the fire. It's been working. We have an effective opposition for probably the first time in 43 years. And let's just keep that opposition growing and holding the government accountable. Thank you.
Thank you very much for our third super question, a few-minute question, Steve Chapman.
Thank you. So we have heard each of you outline why you are seeking elected office, and you have addressed part of the disaster of 2013 for the Alberta floods, both for this area and across Alberta. Now, if elected, what other issues do you feel are needed to be addressed in the area of public policy, government services, and quality of life for all Albertans? We'll start with Stephanie and then move around.
Thank you. For me, one of the biggest issues that I think needs to be dealt with and addressed is the issue of the underfunding of legal aid in this province. Now, thank you. Legal aid is so severely underfunded that, as I mentioned previously, somebody who's earning $1,300 on each cannot get legal counsel. Now, when you're faced with a criminal charge, or if you're dealing with a family law issue, you're in the midst of a divorce or custody battle, and you're fighting for your children, and you can't get a lawyer, I don't exactly know how this province expects you to be able to properly represent yourself in court. I see legal counsel with years of training doing their best, and to go up against one of them as a self-represented individual, whether you're a doctor or an engineer, it's a lofty goal that is impossible for the reach. Now, the Minister of Justice has pointed the finger to the federal government and really unloaded the responsibility. But the administration of justice is a provincial responsibility, and it's the responsibility of the Minister of Justice to ensure that we have a properly funded legal aid system. And now, when we don't have a properly funded legal aid system, the whole system grinds to a halt. And the result is people who should have been perhaps convicted of a crime go free. Now, I've been doing work pro bono in order to help people try and get legal counsel who otherwise have been denied by legal aid. The issue is rampant, and it really seeps into the community. Now, the other issues that are particularly important to me is healthcare. I mean, the healthcare in this province is in dire straits. I saw my father stay for a long period of time in the hospital, and the care that he received, while impeccable, it's difficult for healthcare workers in these overcrowded hospitals to be able to give the proper care and attention that is needed to each of these individuals. There's an issue with long-term health care beds. Palliative care is an important issue, and people are being sent home, and their loved ones are being made to take care of them, and they're not qualified to do so, and they shouldn't have to. Those, for me, are the two main issues on top of my mind today. Thank you.
Okay, so the issues that I would focus on, in addition to the things we've just talked about, actually start with rebuilding trust. We have so little trust in our government institutions as a result of 43 years of PC reign that we have a lot of work ahead of us to rebuild that trust. The first way to do that is to make things truly transparent. The Premier had come out with an announcement recently saying that he was going to have a review of the 194 agencies, boards, and commissions. We didn't even know there were that many around, but they're floating around up there, that are managing our money, and they're managing about 2/3 of all of our tax dollars. And as soon as I started looking at that, I thought, well, it's not enough just to tell us who the CEOs of these tribunals are and what it is that they're supposed to be doing. I need to understand how they got there. I need to understand whether they're spending our money effectively, and I want to know whether they're getting results. One of the biggest agencies we're talking about is Alberta Health Services. It spends $18 billion. We barely know how they spend their money. And the element of transparency that we would get by understanding that in more detail and having a more broken out budget so that someone would know what does this $80 million actually go towards. So I've been looking for transparency on all of the government agencies, boards, tribunals, and whatnot, in addition to the transparency that we have, and we should have, into our own government as well, all those different departments and ministries. We need to see what they're up to, and we need to see it much more clearly than we do now. So for that, I think would help rebuild trust, because people will then have to do the right thing because they know we're going to be looking at it online, and we'll find out what they're up to. The other thing I work towards is rebuilding respect. This government does not respect the professionals that it is governing. The Alberta Health Services organization is trying desperately to make the health services work. The doctors that I've talked to, the former administrators like Ralph Coons, who ran the Foothills Hospital, all of these people have incredibly good ideas on how to clean up and make the system more effective. They're not being consulted. Dr. Paul Parks can't even get a meeting with the new unelected health minister. This is not enough when we are in such a deep hole. We're trying to bring back our healthcare system to make it a world-class system as befits the richest province in our country. So looking for rebuilding respect with the healthcare professionals, rebuilding respect with the nurses, rebuilding respect with the teachers. Well, let's not forget that under the PC government, the teachers found themselves actually almost ready to file violations of privacy lawsuits because the minister decided he could just start emailing them at home. Like there's a sense that they can't even bring forward issues because they're going to be punished. So rebuild trust, rebuild respect, and also the last one, rebuild respect for the environment.
You know, in terms of issues we haven't discussed tonight, I think the environment is a very important one to talk about. I think that just this week we heard that Alberta is currently losing $3 billion a year in foregone royalty revenue because we can't get access to market for our core product, for the oil that we produce. And I think that is not simply because of bad luck. That's because we have not done a good enough job in Alberta of stewarding our environment. I'll hasten to add, I think Alberta does in fact have some very good environmental regulations. I think perhaps there's some areas of improvement there, but what we don't do a good enough job on is enforcing those regulations. I think Alberta needs to focus on addressing, so as an entrepreneur and as a business person, I look at the issues that Alberta faces, not as challenges or things that we need to be afraid of, but as opportunities. The market and the world is telling us, Alberta, we want you to solve the carbon problem for us. We want you to use less, perhaps no, fresh water in energy production. We want you to address issues of tailings ponds or land use. If Alberta set out a bold objective to help be part of the solution for climate change by significantly reducing carbon emissions from large industrial process like the oil sands, the province of Alberta, the people of Alberta, we have a remarkable group of people here who are very, very entrepreneurial, highly educated. We have some very savvy, bright engineers and technology folks who are already working on these things. What we need is a government that thinks along with them, that encourages and incents and creates true centers of excellence in these areas. And if the government of Alberta took that as an imperative of its own right, what we would find is that we both solve those issues on behalf of the world, we enable continued economic growth through our energy industry, and we diversify our economy into more of the knowledge-based economy, not just the resource-based economy. And it also has the nice benefit of getting Alberta off of this resource revenue roller coaster, which we've lived on for so many years. When the price of a barrel of oil is up, we can build schools. When it's down, sorry, we've got to take up the library and stuff your kids in there. So I think that is a question of vision that has been completely lacking from this 43-year PC dynasty. The other thing I would add in terms of quality of life is the Alberta Party has a strong belief in the creative industries, in the arts and culture. And if anyone was at my campaign kickoff last Saturday, they'll understand what we mean by that. We have a live band, we have a local artist there, and I invite all of you to stop by any time at the old gas station before we stop in Margaloup on 34th Avenue and 20th Street. It is, I think, by far the coolest campaign office in the history of the public. But I think that speaks to who we are. So with that, I'll see the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you for conceding 2 seconds. John, please.
Well, I want to talk about public policy and the quality of life, and I'm just going to talk about two areas. Mr. Dirks and I qualify for seniors here, so that's one that we have to look at, because right now we have a failed policy for seniors. Bob Rose announced today that they would redirect $200 million in current spending to the following areas. $50 million to reopen closed transition and long-term care beds, another $50 million to expand home care funding.